Welcome everyone to Master Health Coach TV. I'm Dr. Shaunna Menard, and I am super excited for this segment. We have Christi Cass joining us tonight. Thank you for coming, Christi.
Oh, Shaunna, I am super excited to be here, so thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, for any of you new to this segment, I'm Dr. Shaunna Menard, and I've been a medical doctor for 25 years and a health coach for 10 years. And I'm really excited about showcasing some of these amazing health coaches out there in the world doing some amazing things and show you really more about like what is a health coach and how do they work and what do they do and what's that all about. So I'm really excited for this call because Christi has a unique approach that I know a lot of you are going to be interested in. And just as we start, I want to just welcome you all. And have you ever heard of health coaches? So are you a health coach yourself? Have you benefited from a health coach? Drop that into the comments. I would love to know, are you a health coach? Do you know what those are? Any of those things. So drop that in there. And because I know a lot of people have not. I come from that doctor world, and there are a lot of doctors that don't know what is actually a health coach. So that's the first thing. And then I would love to know, where are you joining us from tonight? What part of the world? And just say hi in the comments, and we would love to acknowledge all of you and just welcome you. And definitely stay to the end, because Christi has an amazing gift that she is wanting to share with all of you. All of you can have this gift. And so that's going to be at the very end, though. So hang with this. We got lots of great stuff. So without further ado, our guest tonight, I found online while I was preparing for the big IIN Miami Live conference. Many of you may know me as the MC there, although my hair was a little darker. I like to change things up.
It's summertime, right?
It's summertime. It's summertime. So yeah, we go a little sun-kissed. Yeah, that's it. And so one of the topics that I was speaking on was working with doctors, how health coaches can work with doctors. And that was a really popular segment. And so many of you wanted to know more about that. And this fine woman is doing just that. And she's got that down. And I know a lot of you, I gave you a lot of theoretical information, but I thought it's really great to have a real life example of how does that work. So our special guest tonight is from New Orleans. She was originally from there, and she's lived in Dallas and Scottsdale and Nebraska. And she has come back to her roots in New Orleans. She's been married to her husband, Skip, for 26 years. They have a son, Andrew, who's in college, and a daughter, Katie, 17, who's a soon-to-be senior in high school. And she, the daughter, Katie, plays a big role in the story that you're about to hear tonight as well. And so we're going to get more into that. And so she is now joining us from New Orleans, where she's back to that, loving that culture and friends and family out in that region of the world. And we just want to give a big, huge welcome to Christi. So welcome, Christi Cass.
Golly, that is quite a welcome. Thank you, Shaunna. That's wonderful. I'm so excited to be here and to chat with you. And I love that you are spreading the mission of health coaching and the value of that health coaches bring to the medical paradigm, right? And what we can do there. So kudos to you and your work. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And that's, I think, when we work together, it is always so much more effective. So just going to get this little banner off of us here. There we go. So tell me, what led you to become a health coach? Because many of us have never even heard of that. So what led you to this health world and health coaching?
Well, Shaunna, like a lot of health coaches that I talked to, it was my own health journey. That was the original piece that got me into becoming interested with health coaching. About 10 years ago, I was pretty sick. Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. I had hormonal imbalances and thyroid issues, and I was pretty much a hot mess. And it took me a while to get to the root of the problems. I worked with some doctors that were more conventional and just kind of wanted to give me the script and send me on my way. And it wasn't until I found a doctor who was just a conventional MD who really had a heart for getting to the root of the issue. And working with him was a big shift for me. And he was also someone who empowered me to use food and lifestyle choices as part of my healing process. So that was really kind of the impetus in the beginning of me, wanting to become a health coach. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. I'd had a whole previous life in corporate and had kids, was staying home, and my kids were getting older, and I was to the point of I wanted to do something that would make a difference in the world. Right. And at this point, I had sort of come through my own health journey, and I had friends and family asking me lots of questions and for support and ideas, and what are you doing? And because it was a pretty big transformation on my end. And that's kind of how it started. that's the beginning. And actually originally started working on a master's in holistic nutrition. That was where I started, and ended up shifting and taking the certification route. And I went to IIN that you mentioned just a little while ago as well. So,
yeah, and I remember you sharing with me that story, and it was really your daughter that sort of played a role in that. Well, more so in the role of your shift to working with doctors, and we'll get there in a moment. But so you led. Your journey led you to IIN, and tell me a little bit more about either, what was the shift, why switching from the master's to IIN, and then what was your experience like at IIN? And for those of you who don't know, it's Integrative Nutrition. The Institute for Integrative Nutrition is what IIN stands for, which is the conference and the nutrition school that I've spoken at and that we were talking about earlier. But carry on.
Yeah, so I had started on a master's in holistic nutrition. It was actually my daughter's head injury. When we realized pretty quickly that it was not going to be I say typical, she got a severe concussion, but it was really severe, and can't walk for a week without support severe. And when we realized within about 6 or 8 weeks, it wasn't going to be that typical concussion recovery where, typically in about 9 weeks, you're kind of back to normal. Well, that what we knew that we could tell that wasn't what we were heading towards. And I was, just crazy busy between, caring for her, my schoolwork. I was taking 2, master's level courses at the time. And it was just insane. And I started doing more and more research. And I remember my husband asking me, well, what's the difference for you when it comes to building a business? Do you have to have a master's to build a business? And I hadn't really considered that I could do it any other way. So I sort of stepped back and thought about it and did some research and realized, I could actually do a business. And at this point, I knew I couldn't handle the school load. I would have to go down to 1 class, and I was like, good grief, I'm going to be 50 years old before I can start doing what I really want to do, right? So that was all kind of part of that journey that then led me to more research, and I discovered IIN, and actually talked to someone who had was either just finishing up or had just finished up there, and they had a great experience, and it just ended up being a really good fit for me, especially during that time in my life. And I'm thankful with my daughter's recovery, which ended up being about a 2-year recovery process, that I learned a lot at IIN that I was able to implement and utilize as part of what I did as a mom and a health coach mom. It was a really good fit for that time in my life. And I will tell you that, I still think about going back to school because I'm a forever learner, but this is what I needed to build my business. And becoming a health coach, a strategic health coach, was perfect for me, and I was thrilled with my experience at IIN. What you asked, what was that like? I think for me, it was like I found my people. If that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Because you're kind of, when you're the healthy one and you're eating a little differently from some of your friends and family, and then you find other people that approach food and approach lifestyle in a similar way. It was like, oh my gosh, it's like people who get me, that I get. And it was wonderful. That sense of community was really powerful for me as a part of that, growing process, because you grow a lot when you go through I think any health coaching program, but IIN is a 12-month program. And you grow a lot as a person, and obviously, of course, as a health coach, but it really expands you in ways that you aren't necessarily expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. You end up having lifelong connections. Got some stuff I haven't.
And that's so true. I have friends that I met through school that I'm so close to now that have become dear friends. Never would have met. One was actually in my town. I was in Dallas at the time, and we were both going to the IIN conference, and we connected. We were in the same class at IIN, and we connected and met each other. And I think we're a little, this will be interesting. We're fabulous friends. We went to New York together. We traveled together, had a fabulous time, and those friendships are really precious. For people who kind of understand the journey of what you're doing as a health coach, what your mission is, and your intention in this role.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so much more than just nutrition. And it is about the holistic part of it and it as a lifestyle. And you grow as a person, and then how you can reach out into the world. And it was life-changing for myself, and just having been there with thousands of IIN.
I'm envious. I wanted to be there. I couldn't be in Miami.
Oh, it was so amazing, and you can tell how much of an impact it's had. And hats off to Joshua Rosenthal, who sort of founded that and had that vision, and then hats off to you and all of us and those listening too, who take that vision and then really move it, create the movement for it. So you have a really great and unique practice in that you have doctors as a referral source, and I'm kind of I'm a hybrid myself. I am a medical doctor and a health coach, so I get it. I get why that works.
So cool, by the way. It's so amazing to have a doctor who's also a health coach. It's every health coach's dream, right? To have that kind of doctor in their world.
Absolutely. And I think someday, like, all doctors will have at least one health coach in their practice to sort of follow through on recommendations. And there's a lot that you learn at IIN, and that is not the same things that are taught to physicians, and not that one's right or wrong. It's just different. It's like there's a role for physiotherapists and there's a role for surgeons. It's not like one's right and one's wrong. There's a role for everybody, and there's definitely a role for health coaches. And currently there's this huge gap in our medical system, and it's huge, obviously. And our obesity and cancer and diabetes, the epidemics are they're all on the rise and going in the wrong direction. So clearly just telling people, hey, you should lose weight, or you should watch what you eat so balance your sugars, just telling them that is not enough. And I remember when my dad went to the doctor, he was told, don't come back till you lose 40 pounds. So he never went back. So that's one thing.
Helpful, right?
Yeah. So, clearly it's helpful when you have someone who can implement that. So tell us about, how did you get into this role of having this referral partnership? And I know so many of these people are eager to hear about how that all came about, and then we'll go into more specifics of what does that look like? What do you do? So I know they're all eager, so take it away.
Well, it really happened organically. It was not my intention. When I became a health coach, that was not my intention to work with doctors. As I mentioned earlier, my daughter had sustained a severe concussion, and about a year into her recovery process was when we finally found the clinic that helped us get to the root of her issues. And the first thing, as a health coach, I fell in love with this clinic. The first thing they did after doing physical testing, metabolic testing, the doctor handed me a sheet of paper. It was one sheet with, I call it AIP on steroids. It was a crazy diet. It was basically AIP, low glycemic, super strict. She was 13 years old. Okay.
For AIP, anyone listening who might not know, Autoimmune Protocol, I'm assuming is what you're talking about?
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, an Autoimmune Protocol, which is a really strict protocol, and it's designed from an autoimmune perspective for one thing, but in this role, it was really to bring down inflammation in her body. I had been working with her that first year, however, had a lot of resistance from her conventional neurologist, just really kind of disregarding what it is I was trying to do. So it's kind of hard to get compliance from a 13-year-old if their doctor says, you don't have to do that.
Right. Yes.
So the first thing they did was they gave me this really tough diet. And I looked at it and I told my husband on the way home, I said, wow, if they had handed this to pretty much any of my friends or even my mom, they would have thrown it out the window. It was crazy hard, but we did it. She was, God bless her, so committed to getting well and wanting to heal. She was willing to do anything at this point. So it was really up to me to get really creative and to get creative with her meals and her snacks and what can she do when she's going out with friends as a middle schooler and all of that. And I come back about 3 months later. We've also had, by the way, a time where, when she's there for therapy and I start working with, when I say working with, talking to some of the other parents or caregivers of other patients, and they're struggling with these crazy diets, and I'm sort of guiding them, well, you can do this and you can do that, and kind of helping them along that route. And by the time we come back for blood work about 3 months later, her doctor is looking at her blood work and he looks at me and he goes, what did you do? And I went, oh, I did exactly what you told me to do. And he leans back and he laughs. He goes, nobody does that. It's too hard. And I was like, let me tell you what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And so he had never heard of health coaching. By the way, his wife is now a health coach, which I love to tell that story. It's so awesome. And before I left that day, he's taking me by the hand, walking me around the clinic, introducing me to the other doctors of, this is amazing. And he's like, all of my patients need somebody like you. So that was the very beginning. It didn't happen overnight. My business didn't explode the next week, but I developed those relationships. I nurtured those relationships. I took incredible, impeccable care of their patients that they referred to me very slowly at first, very carefully, and which was wise on their part to make sure. And, I can talk a little bit, if you want to now, about what that relationship looked like. Does that work?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the way it has worked with that particular clinic, and I've worked with doctors in other clinics as well now, but most doctors, the way I work with them is it's all, especially with HIPAA laws in the United States, everything has to be very visible. There's no communication between me and the doctor, really outside of the patient's visibility. So everything we do via email, the patient is copied on everything. I do not have access to their lab work or their file or anything of that nature. The doctor or the MA would typically refer the client to me and basically say, here's what the doctor wants to do. Because you and I both know doctors don't have time to really walk people through significant changes. And these are clients that have, these are really complicated clients with autoimmune disease, early onset Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, stroke victims, other concussion, ADD, there's a lot of neurological, but also other autoimmune disease patients that I worked with. But, they'll say, okay, this is what I want you to do. So then it was up to me, working with the patient step by step to help them make these really significant changes in their lifestyle that wouldn't just impact them. It's also impacting their family and their caregiver who's needing to cook food and prepare food very differently from how they've ever done it. And, finding comfort food for people who are struggling. It was just really this interesting process, especially in the beginning. But as a holistic health coach, we're approaching, we're looking at hydration, what's your sleep hygiene, stress management, body movement, if that's appropriate for their condition, all of that. But, in working with the doctor, the way it's worked with me primarily has been, I will do a follow-up after every appointment, a very detailed follow-up. The doctor knows everything I've done, everything I've recommended. If we have questions, I essentially become a post-care conduit for the doctor, because oftentimes questions will come up that I can't answer. I don't know if this is okay, or I always ask about their symptoms, what's going on, and if something is different, I key in the doctor. It's up top at the very top. And for doctors, right, I'm bolding and highlighting what's important because they skim, they move fast.
Yes.
So it's that communication's really key. And if we need to hop on a call, if they're having another call with their client, because oftentimes these patients were out of town, sometimes they would have me on. But it's a very collaborative relationship, and I think very very rewarding, not just for me. I mean, it's of course that's what we do as health coaches, but for the doctors to see their patients make great strides, and they know these are doctors who really get it, who really value the role that nutrition and lifestyle plays in the health of their patients, and for them to see them make big strides, and their lab numbers, their lab values come back better, and they know what it's directly related to, is wonderful and really rewarding. For it's frankly makes the doctor. I always say it makes the doctor look like a hero, because the doctor was like, here's what I want you to do, here's who can help you do it.
Yeah, and I think I really love this. The title of that segment that I spoke on was working with doctors, and I think with is the key word. Yes. Not against doctors, and there is a segment that wants to work against them, and not everybody has to work with doctors, but it really is wonderful when you do that, because I know I went to medical school with these people, and they truly want the best for their patients. They really, really do, and most of them are not taught nutrition, and that's another subject for another time. And so a health coach can be really beneficial there. But in addition, even the ones that know, like that doctor had a knowledge base and gave you a list of things to carry out, but that's all that they have time for. Like they can't go in your kitchen and help you, or they can't say, hey, here's a recipe, or that's just beyond the scope of that practice, which is perfect because that's the gap that health coaches can fill. Yeah. And they love that people are compliant with the recommendations, and that's huge. And it is a win-win all the way around for the doctor, for the patient, and for you.
I call it a win-win-win.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it is interesting, Diana. Good to see you on here. It is interesting how you can collaborate. I have someone who saw a gastroenterologist, and they said, keep doing what you're doing. There's all these improvements. And then they said, by the way, what are you doing? And so, because they're not used to, sometimes in some of these conditions, they're not used to having people get better. And, my story about my dad and, how he recovered from his stroke that was not recoverable. And so I think as more doctors get aware of health coaches, and more health coaches get a handle on, a perspective of how amazing the role that they have is, and they don't need to be the doctor, leave the doctoring to the doctor. That's their role. Yeah, and I think you're a big proponent of, staying in your own lane, or if you want to speak to that. And then also just kind of give people a glimpse into a day in the life of, because there's many ways that this can be done. And so some people will work in the same office as the doctor. Sometimes they have their own business. Sometimes it's in home. Sometimes it's remotely. So what does your day in the life of look like working with doctors?
It's everything I do is virtual. So anytime I'm working with clients, it's either via Skype or Zoom. I always tell them, we can do this over the phone, which is what probably 85% of my clients, that's what we do. But I'm like, if you need to see the whites of my eyes, then we can get on Skype or we can get on Zoom. And I actually find, I've had a few teenagers where it's a parent and a teenager, and the teenager is really the patient. That's really valuable for them, for somebody other than their parent to be guiding them, and for them to see me as a real person, not just someone who's telling them what to do, right?
Right.
So truly what I do is virtual. I work in my home office right here, but I can work from anywhere, which I love. I love having location freedom. We have a place here in New Orleans. We have a place in Dallas, and I travel between the two. And it doesn't matter where I am. I can work with my clients at either place. I communicate with the doctors, with their MAs, anything that's patient related, the patient's always included on. And when I have a call with a patient that's a doctor referral, we have our call, and then afterward, it can take me anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes to do the complete follow-up that I do, because it's very in-depth, and there's it all depends on what they need, and of course, based on what the doctor's directed. So there's a lot of office work as well. It's not just, and I always remind the health coaches I work with, when it comes to charging for your time, it's not just that hour or 50 minutes that you're actually spending with the client. It's, some people do a lot of prep work ahead of time. Some people do it on the back end. I always do it on the back end. That's what works for me in my business. So I typically figure 2 hours per client call. That's what I allot in my day when I have client calls. But I will say too, when it comes to, you're right, there's a lot of different there's a lot of different ways that this can present itself when you're working with doctors. Again, mine is totally virtual, but there are other folks who can work actually in my mentor. My IIN mentor actually worked in a doctor's office, in an integrative physician's office for, I don't know, it was like 1.5 years or 2 years as a health coach. So for me, I'm not employed by the office. It's just it's truly referral, and it's a mutual referral, because I've had health coach clients that have just come to me through other marketing methods that I know are out of my scope. Like, I can see there's something else going on that somebody who's licensed and qualified needs to dig deeper and find out. And right. I know great doctors that I can very comfortably send them to, and so right. that referral relationship, not one-sided. Yeah. It's a referral relationship, is really valuable.
Yes. I find it was really interesting speaking to you, and how similar our practices have evolved. And it's kind of interesting. And everybody sort of is making their own way. Diane was asking how many health coaches are there right now. honestly, there's thousands actually worldwide, globally, but still it's very much in its infancy. And I would say most are not practicing full time. But they get to make hours, but you get to decide, how you want to set up your practice. And this is a phenomenal way, because when you have a referral relationship with a doctor, where are all the sick people going? To the doctor. So it's and they have no time, but they have lots of people. And so it's a great connection.
Absolutely. And when you do a good job and help produce better patient outcomes, that doctor will continue to refer more clients to you. It becomes a very natural progression. And again, that's why I made the point earlier. It's not like my business exploded the next week, but within 6 months, I was very, 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 very busy.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, you nurture that one relationship. And you're, as people who are health coaching right now, as your clients are getting results and they go back to their doctors, have your clients brag on your behalf. Let the doctors know that you exist, and they might be open or interested in that. And I like the way Christi does it. It's also the way that I do it, and that the doctors will let the patient know about us, about you, about me, and then it's up to the patient to contact us. Mm-hmm. And that's very good for the doctor, because they're not liable in the same way that they would be if you were in their business. Because it's like they would say, you should be more active, and they would refer you to a gym, for example. Mm-hmm. And then if there's a problem with the gym equipment, well, that's not the doctor's fault. So they're referring you to that. There's gradations there. The more specific they are in the protocols that they're recommending, then the more liable they are for those recommendations as well. So there's like a whole continuum. And, I think you just find a referral relationship that fits you, your comfort level,
Well,
more or less independent.
And to speak to that really directly, something that I did to protect myself as a health coach was any client who came to me as a doctor referral, I actually included in my agreement with that client that that ultimately the doctor was directing their care. Right. Because I was simply implementing with the doctor, which then protected me as a health coach. So if the doctor, has a, whatever, like a neurological patient that needs to be on a keto leaning diet and there's a problem, it's not because I decided that's what they needed to be on. So, and that's between you and the doctor and how you work that relationship. But part of that was my nod to them, not just protecting myself, but you're in charge. Right. I would tell the client up front, I will not recommend any supplements. I will not recommend anything outside of the scope of what Dr. So-and-so has recommended. If there's something we think might be beneficial, we ask and we get their guidance, because I'm not the doctor.
Right.
And I always said the doctor would tell them what, I show them how.
Yes, exactly. It's the how to, because if they're not just a walking diagnosis, it's not just someone with, Parkinson's, say, or post-stroke. It's also someone who might go on a vacation. How do you eat on vacation? It's also someone who might,
holidays,
relationships and different things that impact their health. It's all of that. It might be also someone who goes grocery shopping. How do they do that? And so they might say, hey, eat gluten-free, but then how do they do that? And so,
right. And what are those products? I literally have loads of products in my cell phone that I will text, replacements for dairy-free, for gluten-free, for grain-free. Here's a picture so that you can show somebody in the grocery store what you're looking for.
Right. And, feel free to ask questions. I know, Sharon, you were asked, and we answered something you were going to ask, but feel free to ask there. We're almost wrapping up here, but I think there's different ways that people can do this, and a lot depends on the doctor and a lot depends on you. And if you are doing what Christi's doing, these are pretty complicated cases, but also she's working with really knowledgeable doctors about the role of nutrition and lifestyle. That's not always the case. And so sometimes they just say, hey, even just this person losing 20 pounds could dramatically improve their health. So they could refer to Weight Watchers, or they could refer to you, who can kind of work really kind of one-on-one, hand-in-hand with them. And in which case you're going to be in more control, but you're also not going to be doing anything sort of out there probably. It doesn't take that much. But when you're dealing with these neurologic conditions and some other things, those are, and the doctor has a belief and a feeling, and this is the way they want it, then you're going to be following, more there. So there's all sorts of different ways. So yeah, Sharon's just saying, the doctors tells them what, and a health coach tells them how. Love that. I love that too. That's exactly it. That's exactly.
Well, and one thing I think that's really important to mention, especially being in the States, is different laws apply to what you can and can't do in the States. So you always want to understand what the laws are in your state and how you can work with doctors. Mm-hmm. So that's really important as well to be knowledgeable on that front.
And Christi is asking, do any of our modules guide us to partner with MDs?
Yes, Jill, they do.
There you go. So with that, I'm gonna jump right ahead to you also support health coaches, and it's obviously something that I'm passionate about. That's why I do this Health Coach TV, celebrate some great health coaches. It's also why I speak and teach health coaches, and why I founded something called the Health Professional Academy, where I teach health coaches how to create online courses as a way of getting their message out there and getting some freedom and residual income that way. But you have created some protocols, and that is excellent to help people with dealing and working with doctors more effectively. Tell people a little bit more about how you support health coaches in that way.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. So I ended up, again, very organically creating these protocols because of my work with doctors. It simplified the communication. If we were super clear on, I need this to be low glycemic, paleo, we both had a clear understanding what that meant, what his expectations were. So I, just super short story, had created quite a few protocols and had some of my health coach friends seeing what I'm doing, asking me, what are you doing? And what is that? And, I've got a client and they've got this problem, can I see that? And sure, here you go. And sharing it with them. And I literally got responses back like, Christi, do you have any idea what you have here? This is amazing. No one's created this. And at that point I was like, well, that's why I created it for myself, right? That was my intention, it was for me and my practice. And they really encouraged me to share them with health coaches. So I took about 9 months and expanded them and did greater, backed everything with research and, hired the recipe developers and the graphic artists and all that kind of fun stuff, and launched Health Coach Protocols about 1.5 years ago. And have had great response. And we've got 3 protocols right now, one for autoimmune disease that also includes paleo. And we have doctor trainings included. So for instance, Dr. Terry Walls, collaborated with me on that and did the training, which is just really amazing. And I've got one for blood sugar and I have one for hypothyroidism as well. So, those were created to really give done for you resources to health coaches that they can use in their business without having to basically make it all up themselves. And when I say make it all up, I mean create all of this documentation. It's written with the end user in mind, and it's beautiful. I have to say, I mean, they're beautifully designed, but they're written for the end user in a way for your client to understand it. And they can, health coaches can brand it, present it like it's theirs. They can edit it and customize it. And if they're working with doctors, it's very professional. A doctor, they can share with the doctor, here are some of the tools and resources that I'm using with my patients or with your patients. And actually, Jill had asked me if there's training. I have actually been getting ready to launch a training on how to work with doctors. So, if it's okay, anyone who decides that a health coach protocol would be helpful for them, I'm happy to share with you as a bonus that training. So I'm tossing that out there for those health coaches that, are interested in taking this route. That's something that I'd love to do, and, say until Saturday or something that I'll honor that bonus, because that's a whole separate training that I'm about to be launching to health coaches as well. So it's really, really, Monica, the protocols are amazing. Thank you, Monica. They're really in depth, and I'm really, I love sharing these because I think they're such a valuable tool for health coaches to use in their business. And if they're working with doctors, it's incredibly valuable.
That's fantastic. So how can people get in touch with you, Christi? Like, if they're more and they're finding out more about that, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook. My business page, my public figure page is Christi Cass, CASS. I've got a free health coach group that's just exclusively for health coaches, where I do challenges and other support. In fact, we're getting ready to do a really cool challenge in about 2 weeks, creating and launching a free ebook. So we do lots of cool things in there. It's all free for health coaches growing their business. That's called Health Coach Success Mastermind. And you can learn more about my protocols at healthcoachprotocols.com. Hey there, Adam. Good to see you.
That's fantastic. And you also mentioned about a free gift for the people on here. And as we're wrapping up, and I'm going to let you tell them about it. And I'm going to be posting right after we wrap up, and just give it like 3 seconds. And I will put in the link to her gift. So tell us what that is all about.
Yeah, so, we were talking about, the protocol. So what I actually did was we have an ebook library in the protocols. So I pulled 3 of the ebooks out, and I have something that I call the Elite Health Coach Resource Kit. So I'm super excited. It's super high value. It's 3 ebooks that you can brand customize, and use in your business any way you want. You can use them as a challenge, as a freebie. I mean, just use them in your one-on-one or in your group programs. But we have gluten-free, how to go gluten-free, how to go tips on going gluten-free, tips on going dairy-free, and supportive daily habits. And that's just an ebook, as holistic health coaches that talks about, body movement, sleep hygiene, and stress management. So these are tools for you to use in your business, totally free. And I'm super excited to share them. So thank you, Shaunna, for letting me do that today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I just want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody who has been online and so great at communicating and participating and asking your questions. And I also want to offer people something just as a thank you, and a free coaching session. So if anyone wants to follow me on my website at drshaunna.com, if you're a new subscriber there, anyone who's following me there today, I will pick one of you and we will do a nice little coaching session, and they can, whether it's on health coaching or on business coaching or anything in between.
Awesome.
Happy to do that. And since some of you may have signed up yesterday or something like that and not known that, and that's just free following. You'll watch a master class or you'll have access to that, but you can have access to that. If you just private message Shaunna Menard, then I will also pick one of you from there too. Just private message me with a free coaching session. So lots of great stuff for both of you. So Christi's website again, healthcoachprotocols.com. Mine is drshaunna.com. And I want to just thank all of you for joining us and being online with us. And you are all phenomenal. I can tell how great. It's a testament to that IIN community. And if you're wondering about health coaching yourself, maybe you wonder, well, what is it? Is this something that I might want to do? And maybe you're not one yet. Then contact either Christi or myself through our websites, and we would be happy to help you. And here, Bridget's got a testimonial for you worth every penny. She's doing your program. In-depth protocols are amazing. And hours, so awesome. And we're getting lots of thank yous. So I just want to acknowledge all of you. You guys are phenomenal. And so with that, lots of great tips for you there if you're wanting to move this further. And I think the big take-home message is that when health coaches and doctors work together, and when we collaborate and work together, everyone wins, right? It's kind of like at my house. I have 4 kids, so I always say there's plenty of work around. There's no need to fight over it. There's lots of work to go around. There's a lot of people that need our help, and so if we can link arms together, then everyone wins. So I'm going to put that link to Christi's free gift in here right away, and just thank you all. And we are going to see you next week. Next week, I'm going to be interviewing Maureen Wheeler from Vermont, and she has a unique perspective as well, and you're going to love her. She was in class with me in the live classes on years ago now.
Wow.
So with that, have a fantastic week, and of course, most of all, good for you.
Oh, thank you, Shaunna.
Bye, everyone.